Hi, this is Blake, and we're going to do some corrective mapping. We've got some updated imagery here, and so the mapping that exists doesn't really match up with the imagery anymore. And you can see it's kind of a challenge. You can do different stuff. You could literally just go through and sort of, redo every square and figure out where you need to put it so that it matches the imagery and it looks nice and neat. But I'm going to show you a much faster way. And the key tool you're going to use is the Replace Geometry tool. So the very first thing that I would do is I am going to create a new layer. So I'm going to say File, New Layer. And now I have a new data layer to work with. And I am going to turn off the existing data layer. And now I'm just going to start mapping. This is a lot easier to map. I don't have to worry about what they had or what they didn't have. And I can literally just start doing my mapping. And so you just map however you normally would, whatever your normal process is. Just go to it and get your mapping done however you would normally do this. And when you're all done doing your replacement mapping, I'm going to do the easy things here first before I go figure out what's going on with some of these other ones. When you're all done doing your replacement mapping, then we'll go through and I'll show you how you can just merge it all together and save the existing person's work and get your new updated mapping done. So I remapped this to the best of my ability based on this new and updated imagery. And so I'm at the point where I'm ready to merge this into the existing mapping. So the first thing I'll do is select all the objects. This is all I've done. I don't have anything else on this data layer, so it's completely okay for me to do Edit, Select All, which isn't here. So we're just going to do Control A and select all, and that'll do the job for me. And then we have from the Edit menu, we have Merge Selection. You probably could use Merge Layer, but I tend to do it this way, Merge Selection. I don't really know the difference, but Merge Selection is what works for me. So I say Merge Selection, and it asks me which layer I want to go to. And I want to go to Data Layer 12. That's the one that already had the mapping on it. And so I just say Merge, and almost nothing appears to happen. So I'll turn off Data Layer that I just got done mapping on, and I'll turn on Data Layer 12 and switch to that one for editing. And you can see it basically just laid everything over top. So you can see what I mapped versus what was already there, and what I mapped versus what was already there. And it kind of looks like a mess. But this is where it goes pretty fast. So really all I need to do at this point is you shift click on two buildings, and then you choose Replace Geometry, Control Shift G. And it's smart enough to figure out which one is new and which one is old. And it just merges the old into the new. The reason we do this way, which I should have mentioned before, is we don't want to delete other people's mapping. Somebody spent a lot of time mapping this, and they were the first person to map these buildings, and that needs to be maintained in the history. And so by using Replace Geometry like we're doing right now, we're going to preserve that history. I could have just selected all of that other mapping and just hit delete and mapped it from scratch myself, but that's just not very helpful for people who have already been doing the mapping. So by using Replace Geometry, by just making a new layer, mapping from scratch, merging it down to the existing layer, and now doing Replace Geometry, all of their editing stays in place. All of their history stays in place. If 2 people worked on the building or 10 people, it doesn't matter. All of that will stay in place with Replace Geometry. And we'll just end up with the last thing that I mapped. So now it's just a process of going through and selecting and then doing replace geometry. And this goes pretty fast once you get the hang of it. He said, well, he couldn't get it to work. So that one, something about that one didn't go very well. So this looks like the old one. This looks like my new one. So this one didn't work out. So this one I'm going to delete. I generally try not to delete people's stuff, but you might end up with you mapping one building, them having mapped it as two buildings, and then you don't really have a good way. There's really nothing you can do. So theirs might have to get deleted. Like here, this looks like, I have it as one building. They look like they probably had it as two buildings. So I'll merge one of them into my new building, and this one is just going to have to get deleted. But I think you get the idea on how replace geometry works. And of course, if you have any questions, oh, here's a good one. This doesn't matter. Replace geometry just replaces it. This looked like a round building to me. I don't know what it was before. But you can just merge it all together. Some of these that are attached to fences, luckily it's not going to attach mine to a fence. It's just going to disattach it from the existing barrier. I didn't map in any fences just because it's hard for me to be sure exactly what's fence and what's not. But that's it. Use replace geometry. It's a lot kinder to the previous mappers, and it lets you go just as fast as if you were deleted and mapped from scratch. As always, thanks very much.